This episode is brought to you in part by Akunu. Akunu for Sales is the first buyer-aware platform for account-based selling on Salesforce. Akunu integrates your sales process with buyer behavior to verify buyer-seller alignment and increase confidence in the status of your deals. It eliminates time-consuming data entry for sales reps and makes your sales pipeline and deal review meetings data-driven and much more efficient, giving your sales reps and their managers the time and insights needed to win more deals. So do you know how your deal review process stacks up against other B2B sales organizations? Visit akunu.com/accelerate to access Akunu's benchmark report revealing the deal review habits of B2B sales managers and tips for managing deal reviews. See how you stack up and create your action plan for a better deal management. Get your report at akunu.com/accelerate. That's AKOONU.com/accelerate. It's time to accelerate. Hey friends, this is Andy. Welcome to episode 571 of Accelerate, the sales podcast of record. My guest on the show today is Rick Nucci. Rick is the co-founder and CEO of Guru. And our conversation today is going to be about sales enablement. And this is a topic, as many people know, is a topic of growing importance in today's complex sales environment. And Rick and I are going to dive into what sales enablement really is and talk about how effective sales enablement can help to elevate the productivity of your sales team. If you'd like to see the show notes for this episode, you'll want to go to andypaul.com/571. We provide a timestamp breakdown of this and all conversations on Accelerate. Make sure you check that out. Now, friends, we all hit a sales slowdown from time to time, and oftentimes sales leaders want to default to this notion that the solution is more structure and more process. But sometimes you need to get a new perspective, try new ideas to sort of break out of the doldrums and make sure that your team is selling up to its potential. So if you're looking for new ideas about how to amp up and accelerate your sales, then you need to read this new report I put together just for you. It's based on the specific recommendations of more than 300 leading entrepreneurs, sales leaders, sales thought leaders, and experienced executives that I personally interviewed on this program. And I compiled their practical tactics and strategies into a step-by-step guide that you can use to accelerate and amp up your sales today. So don't wait. Download your copy. It's for free. Go to accelerate.fm/accelerate. That's accelerate.fm/accelerate to get your free copy today. I mentioned a couple times recently I've changed my Twitter handle. So if you're following me on Twitter, you'll notice it's changed to @RealAndyPaul. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, again, it's @RealAndyPaul. I have a lot of things going on that really necessitated the change. As I mentioned before, we tried to get just plain @AndyPaul. Some gentleman in France has been sitting on that name for 8 years and not tweeting. And we weren't able to get that name. But anyway, so @RealAndyPaul. As you might have heard at the beginning of the show, if you're paying attention, this episode is brought to you in part by Akunu. Akunu for Sales uses a visual framework to help sales reps sell in complex accounts and help sales managers coach and manage their reps better. It enables sales organizations to improve their sales performance by surfacing the information that drives better sales execution and keeps your sales reps and sales managers focused on following your process and engaging all the right buyers at the right time. Finally, before we get to the interview, I want to remind you that we want to hear your questions. What are the sales challenges you're facing? What's a particular challenge that you've been dealing with you just need a new perspective on? An objective third party to weigh in and maybe give you some new insights. If that's the case, I want to hear your questions. So send your question to me two ways. You can do this. One is email. Just send it to andy@andypaul.com. Or you can go to my website, andypaul.com. Lower right-hand corner, there's a red button that asks your question. Click on that and just speak your question. I'll get your question as an audio file. And each week, I'll choose one question from those submitted the previous week to answer on my Friday conversation with my great friend, Bridget Gleason. And so you get actually two answers for the price of one. And the winner, the person who submitted the question that we choose to answer, will win a free half-hour coaching call with me. Now, that's a $250 value. So don't delay. Submit your question today. Again, two ways. Email at andy@andypaul.com, or just go to the website the simple way, click that red button that says ask your question, just speak your question, and I'll get it as an audio file. And if you're the winning question, we'll play it on the air. All right, so let's jump into today's conversation with Rick Nucci. Rick, welcome to Accelerate.
Hey, Andy, thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. So, I have a standard question I open the show with that ask all my guests, and that is, in your mind, what's the single biggest challenge facing sales reps today or sales leaders today?
I think it's getting the attention of the buyer, and I'm sure people would hear that and go, "Well, what do you mean? That's always been a problem." But it's
yes, they would.
I think it's an accelerated issue because there are so many technologies now that, when used the wrong way, can flood your prospect's inbox. I think there's so much more engagement attempts going on that the need to be, we can certainly dig into this more, but personalized, contextually relevant, targeted, are just more important than ever. And so I think the challenge is actually a greater challenge than it has been in the past because of that. Again, I think it's actually the technologies that a lot of sales teams are using these days that are proliferating that problem.
Right. So what you're saying is we're creating the issue ourselves.
We are. Yes. 100%.
Okay. 100%. So if people, probably I'm dating myself with the reference to the old comic strip Pogo about swamp animals and telling you that lived and had very interesting political discussions, but it's a famous expression from one of them that we have met the enemy and he is us.
Yes.
So it certainly seems to be the case. I mean, I sign up for mail lists all the time just because I want to be on the receiving end. I want to see what the experience is like, right? Being in my business, writing about this, talking about this. I want to see what it's like to be a prospect. And yeah, it's not a very good experience.
It's not. And even if you don't sign up, right, you're probably on LinkedIn, as I am. Your email address has probably been found by one of a bunch of different technologies. And so you're getting a lot of uninvited outreaches too, which has always happened, and that's fine. But it's now happening at a noise level that's just amazing. And it's not a good experience. And it's not a good experience because it's very untargeted. It's very... I mean, if the goal here was to go, okay, well, we used to do marketing automation where everyone got the same email, and now it's sales automation, and so it's a highly personalized outreach, and we're getting contextually relevant things. We're far from that. I think
I was going to say, hopefully you were having quotation marks around that when you had said highly personalized.
Yes.
Well, so we're not. So how are we going to bridge that gap?
Well, that's the part that I don't think is technology, right? I think we have to challenge ourselves as we're building sales organizations and we're establishing sales process and we're establishing our outbound motions that we deploy for our sales teams, that we actually do follow through with the promise of not taking the easy path of letting a cadence thing send the same email with a different first name substituted 1,000 times, and then go, okay, really understanding our buyer, their title, their role, what they care about, and how we can help them, and make sure we owe it to ourselves to make sure that that person knows how we solve their problem from where they sit in the organization. At our company, Guru, where I work, we have one product that's sold to several different personas, but the way we talk about it is very different. And I think that's a good example of, or just one of a bunch of examples of how we do that. But I think that's the non-technology part of creating the muscle and the discipline and, the monthly process where we're reviewing our outreach process and how we're communicating with folks and being hard on ourselves and going, are we actually doing this? Are we actually having this conversation with a prospect that's value additive to them and personalized to them?
Well, and so how, within your own organization, how are you personalizing these outreaches? Because I mean, this is really a cultural shift we're talking about, right? Because we've embraced these tools very quickly in the last several years, last handful of years, and developed a set of worst practices that are typically followed by the bulk of salespeople that use it. in sales organizations. So how do we break that? Because the basic conflict with it is, what's gone hand in hand with the ability to do this type of outreach on a mass basis is that now people are chartered and measured on doing these mass outreaches.
Yes. Excellent point there. So I'll share 3 things we do that I think our team has done an awesome job of instituting. One, which is what you just said, is how you measure. So I don't think the right metric for an SDR is volume of outreaches. I think it's wrong. I think the solution starts with how you measure the performance of your SDRs. And I believe, and I learned this from my sales leader at Guru, that it's about quality. It's about not how many emails did you send this month. It's how many qualified appointments did you get this month, or whatever that success metric of the ADR is or SDR is on the other side of the conversion there. That's the one to focus in on. And we literally stopped any form of volume-based compensation. When I say volume, I mean top of the funnel. How many things are you sending out? Because I think you're just really trying to make sure they're working a lot in the day by doing that. It's really all that is. But the really big problem with that is I think it encourages this behavior we're talking about. So that's the first thing.
Well, I think it's not just trying to make sure people are working. I think it's somehow this sort of blind faith in the fact that if we send 1,000 emails, then sending 2,000 must be twice as good.
That's right. Exactly. Absolutely right. And I think that's just flawed thinking. I think it's much more. The extreme version of what I'm saying is you almost want your sales team thinking like product managers, right? Good product managers and product marketers are extraordinarily persona focused. They're so focused on who's using my product, how are they using it, why do they use it, what problems does it solve. It's interesting is that's a lot of the exact same questions that good salespeople know how to answer, and then form that into their initial outreaches, right? So it's a very related concept in a lot of ways. You're just doing it at scale, obviously. Mm-hmm. So that was the first one. So second one, we don't allow any outbound email to be sent from a template. So every first email to someone that we're contacting has to be written bespoke by the rep. And so that at least so any sort of cadence or follow-up process or anything like that, sure, that's where we leverage some automation, but that's only after that first email was sent, bespoke, handwritten. Our volume is going to be much lower as a result of that.
Wait. Handwritten, you said?
Sorry. Typed into their browser, okay. Not a handwritten note, typed into their browser, but written by a human, right? Okay. Not a template, the only thing different is their first name.
All right. But I guess the question for me is, that's great. I love the sound of that, but is that you can then start the cadence like right away, or is it, hey, we have to get a response to that first email first before we can initiate the rest of the cadence?
We're always looking for a response before we initiate the cadence. Yes. We'll leverage cadences if you request a demo from us. We'll remind you a few times that you asked for that. If you reply to us, there's usually paths we'll take based on what you say.
Sure.
I'm not interested. We have this, we have that. But no, it's much more personalized, reply oriented. Definitely.
Okay, well that's pretty different. I mean, compared to many organizations that I've worked with and talked to, is the first mail is just the first mail of the cadence, and the cadence starts with the first mail. And hey, you may get your second mail the next day, never having heard back from the person.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So that's been.
Well, so let me follow up with that then. So how then do you follow up to that first personal mail that's sent? What does your team do to follow up?
That one will be less manual or custom or nothing all that innovative there. It's more so they'll send a note with typically a top of the funnel sales asset, something value additive. So it can't be, hey, did you get my email? That doesn't work. But they will send something that's not necessarily this will relate to my third point, persona specific top of the funnel asset, something that's value additive as a follow-up if you don't hear back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But it's really emphasizing that first note because that forces the discipline around researching your potential buyer who you're trying to reach out to.
Right.
And that really gets to my third point, which I think is perhaps, most important of those. And that's investing in product marketing early. I don't know necessarily what early or late means in that comment, but I can tell you, for example, we hired a great product marketer after our third rep joined the company. So I view that as pretty early. I've heard other ratios where you have more like a 1 to 20 ratio of reps to product marketing, things like that. So I think that potentially means we're early, but I think it's so critical and again, more acutely critical than the past. Yeah. So what it did for us is allowed us to learn and execute on those specific personas and the corresponding messaging in our outreaches, the corresponding way we talk about our product, the way we highlight certain features, the way we demo it, the sales assets themselves, all the way to our website and messaging very early in the process. And I think it helped us learn both who's a good fit for our product and who's not. And when we do know who's a good fit for our product based on other successful customers, have a much higher confidence that they'll engage with us and interact with us. So it's that sort of more surgical precision of going, okay, if you have good product marketing sitting with your reps from the beginning, crafting that message that's relevant to that buyer, and that's all product marketing is thinking about all day long, it's an investment that pays dividends. And I think it goes directly to this point of how do we scale a sales organization that has to be good at having conversations with different people in the org that care about different things for different reasons, and really, really make a commitment to the company to building that muscle early. So that's the third one that I believe a lot in, that I think has worked well for Guru.
And so, do you find that you're carrying fewer prospects in your pipeline?
Yes, or less that there's fewer prospects in the pipeline. Mid funnel, but top of the funnel coming in, yes, definitely. Our appointments, our quantity of appointments per month per SDR is going to always look a bit lower than industry standard, but really good quality as a result of that, and really good confidence that it's the right person coming in to solve the right problem.
Interesting, very interesting. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about Guru for people who aren't familiar with us. So tell us a little bit what you do.
Sure. So I'm the co-founder and CEO of Guru. Guru is a knowledge management app that lives where you work. So we are typically replacing things like sales portals, wikis, intranet sites, which tend to just collect a bunch of sales assets and competitive battle cards and objection handling. And that stuff's gone stale. It's too hard to find. Reps don't trust it. They stop using it, really poor adoption. And we replace all that. And what Guru replaces that with is a solution that is built into all the things you're already using. So if I'm a salesperson, I'm spending time in Salesforce, I'm spending time in Gmail, I'm spending more and more time in Slack, and LinkedIn Sales Navigator and Cadence Tools and lots of other places. Guru follows me around and lives in all of those, built into all of those places. We have a browser extension, we have a Slack bot, and we're built into all of those things. And so the result of what happens post Guru for a sales team specifically is reps tend to have a lot of confidence because they can find information very quickly, and they know that what they're looking at is right. And we have a verification engine that automatically reminds subject matter experts to verify content, verify that this is still the right sales asset, this is the right version of the deck, this is the right competitive battle card. Competitors change all the time. That information needs to be re-reviewed. So we automate the process of reminding people to do that. When I'm a rep, I open up something in Guru. It says, this was verified by Andy. He verified it last quarter, and he verifies it every 90 days. Cool. I trust it's right. I'm going to use that. I'm going to speak confidently about how we're better than this competitor, on my phone call.
Of course, you're talking about salespeople. They're going to be confident talking about their competitors, whether they're right or wrong. So it's
yes.
Yes.
Well, remember, a good chunk of our users are SDRs, and SDRs haven't been in sales that long, and so
haven't learned the bad habits, right?
Yes, I do think that confidence thing is an important one too. But, yeah.
So, I mean, you're really a sales enablement tool.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Yep.
So, I mean, it seems like knowledge management or knowledge asset management, content management systems seem to be popular these days. Why do you think that is? I mean, it's sort of interesting. As you know, have we made things sort of overly complex so that we have to have these types of systems? I mean, I was just talking to someone recently we talked about earlier about creating our own problem, creating the complexity. And I was talking to someone earlier today that sort of agreed with that. As, we're creating functions within sales enablement perhaps being among those, that are really sort of necessity because we created all this complexity ourselves.
Yeah, that's a little depressing, but yes, I think yes, you could absolutely make the argument that if you believe that it's more important ever to be personalized in how you sell and educate your customers, and you hold that to be a true statement, then what follows behind that is the way you enable your reps to be able to do that well increases in complexity 100%. There's also the statement that I think a lot of people believe too, which is that buyers educate themselves a lot more before they talk to a salesperson for the first time than they used to. I do believe that as well.
Right.
That only ups the ante of how informed and educated a rep needs to be in order to have that conversation. So I think that's a big part of why products like Guru are becoming more and more important. I look at it as like, when I look at our customers and I reverse engineer, like, why now? Like, why did that specific customer buy Guru? It's interesting. It's like always tends to be one of two things. One is the obvious one, which is they're growing their sales team fast. And as a result of growing their sales team fast, they need a strong enablement program to make sure they can, start contributing to pipeline quickly. The other one, which I find, frankly, a little more interesting, is they're going through a change in their product or go-to-market, specific product marketing. And it's a substantial change. So they're either launching a new product or they're revamping how they talk about or go to market with that product. And so, for example, one of our customers, Optimizely, for years was selling A/B testing to one type of buyer, pretty straightforward sales process. And last summer began their shift to begin offering solutions to 4 different personas, and it's called Optimizely X, and it's their new platform, and they were coming to market with that towards the end of last year. So every rep on the team went from having to know how to have one conversation with one type of persona to how to have 4 different conversations with 4 different types of folks. It led to 4 different categories of sales assets. It led to 4 different categories of competitors, because there's different ways that people solve that problem based on who you're talking to and how they think about the problem. So it, to your point, created this complexity. It was a necessary one, but it upped the ante and criticality of going, hey, these reps have to have this stuff at their fingertips. It's not something where we can expect them to have it all memorized, and it changes a lot. The dynamics of all those things change now across 4 different dimensions. So that product launch one is a super interesting one for me. Is like, okay, this seems to be happening more and more. We always ship new products a lot, but this point of getting smarter about how we sell, learning more, and then revamping how we actually take that to market. And that tends to drive the need for Guru pretty often.
Yeah, I mean, certainly understand the complexity of it is part of the artifact, though, that of what's happening is that people talk about how sometimes we're overwhelming sales reps with all this information, all the content, all the options that are available. But at the same token, it seems like we're creating sort of the scenario where like life becomes sort of an open book test, right? That they really don't have to, in some respects, don't have to know anything because everything they need to know is sort of at their fingertips.
Yeah, so I think making it easier to find it. Yes, I think that's
But are people not
um,
learning it as a result? I mean, that's my concern. And I hear this coming back to me from people we talk to on the show and so on, is that this whole concern about, yeah, you ask, so what's the big problem reps face? You know, I asked you that question earlier. Probably one of the more common answers we get when I ask that question is not understanding the customer. I'm like, okay, well, that's so interesting. Now we've got more tools, more content available than ever, but is the fact that they know where to get, since they know where to get it, they're not really learning it. Know what I mean?
totally. Well, there's understanding the customer and there's understanding the product, and right, and so a lot of the things I'm talking about are understanding the product, and I think even the best intentioned salesperson, at least for our customers, we're talking about reasonably complex products where it's not necessarily appropriate or feasible that they're going to learn it to the depth that they need. Or I'm a rep, I sell a product that integrates with a lot of different things. Well, I need to, and I get hit with, how do you integrate with X? Well, I should be able to pull up that answer, right? That's a pretty common answer. I shouldn't have to bug my engineers with
Right.
how we integrate with X, right? So I think there's a lot of buckets of knowledge where it's not necessarily feasible to learn it. But to your point, my top three competitors, yes, I should not have to pull up a guru card after the 17th time and just read off of it, like a script. I should know it. I should be able to deliver that in person when I don't have something coaching me. I should know that. So certainly the responsibility's there. I definitely agree with you.
Yeah, I just remember reading I attended a webinar, viewed a webinar, a recorded webinar, and one of the data points they're saying is that fully enabled sellers, I remember if I got this correctly, like 52% better at understanding what content to use, when to use it, and who to use it with. And I was thinking, well, isn't that really what top performers know how to do?
Yes, it absolutely. But I think the challenge becomes, going back to my 4 personas example, right? Like, a lot harder when you're talking about having to do that across 4 different folks, and even harder when those assets are changing all the time. And as a result of changing all the time, how do you make sure you're using the right one? But to your point, yes, I think the content problem gets overstated a little bit. There's a lot of folks who I think probably frame sales enablement as, how do I make sure I get the right data sheet to the rep and tell them when to use it? I think there's a lot more to it than that.
I think so too. Yeah, I think that, but you're right. I think that's sort of a fixation right now.
It's a fixation.
And it seems like a problem that AI is beginning to solve and will solve more fully soon.
Totally. And it just won't be, okay, right? There's that's sort of said in the same breath as, sales and marketing alignment, it's broken, they're dysfunctional together. And like, I hear all of that, and you'll definitely hear execs like look at that and go, we have to have sales and marketing aligned. But like, to the point you're saying before, like selling is so much more than just, I send them the right data sheet at the right part of the sales cycle. Like, why didn't they close? Like, yeah, like you said, understanding the buyer and understanding the product you're selling and being able to, all the other positional knowledge that goes with like being an effective rep is way more important. Honestly, I think a sales enablement pie has one slice out of it that's this content stuff. The rest of it is, how do you actually learn how to sell this stuff? How do you actually learn how to navigate bigger orgs with a more complex buying process, with procurement and legal and security teams and different decision makers? That's the stuff, I think. So, I don't like to oversubscribe the value that, those, content solutions tend to provide. I think it's also around the learning that's like the part that has the sustaining value to me.
Yeah, well, I think so too. And I think that one of the one of the breakthroughs, if we're going to look at, how do we make sure these things really have value, is say, well, how do you get the big middle class of sales? Assuming you got your 10 to 20% top performers and 10 to 20% low performers, how do we get that middle group? How do we transform them on a consistent basis? And to me, it's like, that's where the tools have to be really effective, and that's where we have to do a better job of I don't know, teaching people to learn, teaching people how to use these things correctly. I mean, that's yeah, it's great to have it available, but it's if the people that really need to use it aren't using it effectively, then I don't think you really get the ROI out of it.
No, 100%, 100%. And the ROI point that you're making is so important. I think like this idea of products being closed loop is so critical now. Like we used to buy products and there was no analytics. There was nothing that told you like the impact the product was having. You just like started using it.
Mm-hmm.
And like we'll replace things like wiki sites and we'll talk to customers and we'll be like, well, like, does your team use it? And they'll be like, we don't know. We'll be like, what do you mean you don't know? Like, well, there's no analytics. We can't tell who's logging in. Like, we don't really know. But we don't think anyone's using it because no one's learning the stuff we're putting on it. No one's like, everyone's asking us the same question over and over again. And I think like those days are over and it's like the vendor has to build that closed loop. What I mean is like product does X, cadence selling, content, pick
Whatever
the category of software, Okay, did the product actually do that? And show a report that the person paying for it can look at and go, yeah, it did. It actually did. They actually did do this thing this many times in this period of time. It actually did help them win a deal. It helped move a deal through a pipeline. It helped close a support ticket faster. Whatever it is, I think is just like so. Such a critical feature now that has to be part of any solution. Anything in sales tech, marketing tech, support technology, like anything that's like helping a customer-facing org do things better. Probably even more than that, but certainly in those areas, like just so important now.
Well, I think though that the thing that I haven't seen though, and I keep asking guests on the show is I haven't seen data that says, okay, that we're doing with all these tools that we have, that we're doing better than we would if we didn't have the tools. I mean, sort of ostensibly the reports you see about, quota attainment, which again is not necessarily the the keystone of all measurements, but just using that as one example, or close rates, B2B close rates as Forrester reports and so on going down. It's like, okay, well, yeah, tools are great. I love them. I use them, but I can't swear that I'm selling more because of it.
Right. Or the maybe perhaps tired analogy of the vitamin versus the pain pill, or like how do you actually measure the impact? I'm with you, man. I think it's loose. I think one that we have focused on at Guru for our business and our customer that I think is a good one, frankly, is time to pipeline contribution. So the one category where someone's growing their sales team and they need Guru to help them scale and onboard those reps faster, we can actually measure if we're doing that. So because we track all of the engagement and activities that reps take and tie it back to Salesforce, we can actually tell them, hey, here's how long it takes these reps to start doing meaningful activities. Specifically, what I mean by that is pipeline contribution activities. And then you can benchmark that against the sales org that wasn't using Guru before, or if it's a bigger company, this department isn't using Guru and this one is. So I think that time to pipeline is a good one because it's tied directly to an outcome that every sales leader is thinking about, which is that onboarding time. That's such a cost. And then if you're in a market where you're hiring reps in a high turnover geography, that onboarding time becomes even more sensitive because you're dealing with it, 1.3 times or 1.5 times because you have unexpected churn of reps who are doing well. And that's been a good one we've done that I think has gotten customers excited because it does tie to an outcome that they're actually running their business around.
But for it to have long-term value, though, is then you have to extend it beyond the onboarding to say, as a result, A, the employee performed at a certain level which is acceptable, and B, they stayed on longer.
Yes, exactly.
If we could onboard more quickly, but if they turn over quickly, then we don't really get the value out of it. So that's totally. Sort of things I'm talking about in terms of outcomes. I get that with the onboarding, makes a ton of sense, and it's a great way to use a tool like that. But then also, once they're up to a certain level of proficiency, are they more proficient using any one tool, not necessarily yours, but any one tool? Are they suddenly more proficient? Are they able to help the customers, accelerate, build the trusted relationship, and help the customers accelerate their decision making? and achieve better outcomes personally. I want to see that data. Yeah, I'm still hoping somebody will do something and show that.
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I mean, I think the technology like Fabric is there to do that now, which is cool because I think one really important one important thing you need to do what you're talking about is being in the rep's workflow. Like, I think what doesn't work is to try to solve that. And this is how we used to approach this. Like, oh, manually log in as a rep, log your call, log what you did this time, log what you did. That's the classic fail of a lot of this, is expecting that someone will log into a CRM and type it in. The good news is I think the shift that's happening should get us to a data exhaust that can measure the stuff you're after there is, how can I just gather signals about what the rep's doing without them having to actually do anything, right? So you're seeing technologies now that monitor phone conversations without you having to do anything, right? A bot joins the call and listens in on the call and gives you, analysis. And, you see Slack bots now that can very elegantly allow you to update your pipeline as deals move through. Those are the types of things I think that you then can look back and go, okay, now I can take all of that behavior data, combine it with the CRM data of the actual deals in the pipeline, because you at least know that that's going to be in there because reps won't get paid without it. And then you can marry that together. And I think that gets to the panacea you're describing there, which is like, all right, let's look back at last quarter. Like, did the team actually perform better? And like, let's not be anecdotal about it. Let's actually be data-driven about that answer.
Well, I think data-driven, using all the dimensions that are available to sellers, right? I mean, not just, hey, as you said, volume of things, which aren't the most reliable, or quality, but also time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how much time did it take? I mean, we measure velocity, but to me, that's sort of a false measure as opposed to the aggregate amount of time it takes to close a deal, for instance.
Yep.
I mean, because to me, it almost doesn't matter, in one matter, you think about it, almost doesn't matter really how long in duration it takes to close a deal, as much as how much of your time and money you had to invest to close it.
Yeah, well said. I was just about to add that. Yeah, I think you can manage around a longer sales cycle from it started this date and ended this date, but what was the labor burden of actually getting that thing done? And how much time do we spend answering that security questionnaire that the prospect sent us, and we had to go bother 10 different people across the org to get it all answered, and how do we actually improve that efficiency there, and relieve that burden of the internal expert distraction. Yeah, totally, man. I think that's a smart way to look at it.
Wow. Okay. With that validation, it's time to end. Not many people call me smart on this show, so that's good. Well, Rick, it's been great talking to you. And tell people they can find out more about Guru and get in touch with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. We are at getguru.com, GETGURU.com. And you can absolutely learn more about the product, check out videos, sign up for a trial. We'd love to chat and educate you on how we can help. I appreciate the time, Andy.
Hey, it's been a pleasure. I look forward to having you back on the show again. So, hey, friends, thanks for joining us as well. Make sure you come back, check out another great episode of Accelerate. And if you haven't done so already, go to iTunes, subscribe to this show, leave a review. We'd really appreciate hearing from you, what we can do to help make this a better experience for you. So thanks again for joining me. And until next time, this is Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone.